Hello, everyone. Today, I want to tell you about the time I discovered my fiancé was cheating on me just weeks before our planned wedding, which led to the end of our engagement. I'm a 35-year-old guy, and my former fiancé is 33. We had been engaged for 3 years and had set our wedding date for this June. My ex-fiancé and I had known each other for more than 2 years. We both went to the same college, but back then we weren't really close friends or part of the same social circle. We were more like acquaintances. After college, while I was already working on Wall Street, we crossed paths again at a friend's party and eventually started dating. After 2 years of being together, I felt it was time to make our relationship official, so I proposed to her. At that point, I believed I was financially stable enough to provide for my family and fulfill my responsibilities. At first, everything seemed to be going well. We were living together and planning our wedding. However, I began to notice a change in my fiancé's behavior. She stopped behaving like her usual self and started making excuses whenever I tried to get close to her. Our physical intimacy also dwindled, as she consistently gave reasons like wedding stress or headaches whenever I tried to initiate romantic moments. Although this seemed strange to me, I accepted her explanation about the stress of wedding preparations when we talked about it. Seeking advice, I confided in my friends during one of our guys' night out. Many of them were married, and some even had children. They shared that their wives had also acted differently before their weddings. It turned out that it was quite common for brides to feel anxious and uneasy during this time. This gave me some reassurance, and I decided to let it go. I wanted to help my fiancé with the wedding preparations, but I had taken on a crucial project at work that required my full attention and was vital for my promotion. I expressed my concerns to her, apologizing for not being able to assist more. She assured me that it was fine and mentioned that my best friend, who is 35 years old, was helping her with the wedding arrangements. We had been best friends since our school days, and he had also become close friends with my fiancé. In fact, he was going to be my best man at the wedding. I appreciated the fact that he got along so well with my fiancé. I didn't want any tension between my best friend and my fiancé, as I wanted them to get along. During that time, my best friend was going through a tough breakup. His long-term girlfriend had ended their relationship over a phone call while she was on vacation with someone else. It was a really painful experience for him. I thought that being alone in the house he had shared with his ex-girlfriend would be difficult, so helping with the wedding preparations was a good way to keep his mind occupied. I was incredibly excited about marrying the woman of my dreams, and everything seemed perfect. Even though I was putting in long hours at work, I didn't feel exhausted because I wasn't doing all that hard work just for myself. I was doing it for my future family, too. Around that time, I began noticing some signs that something was amiss. Despite my long hours at work, my fiancé was the one coming home late, even later than me. I started asking her where she was going all the time, and she would offer vague excuses, blaming it on the challenges of bridal shopping. She even said, "You won't understand." I believed her at the time because I couldn't imagine her lying to me. But deep down, I had a feeling that she wasn't telling me the whole truth. One Sunday, I had planned to spend the entire day with her without any work or distractions. However, she told me she had to go for a dress fitting. While she was in the shower, her phone, which was on the bed, kept receiving continuous notifications. The vibrations woke me up, and I decided to check who was texting her so much. We both had each other's face IDs and knew each other's passcodes. But strangely, her phone didn't recognize my face. I tried entering her passcode, but it said it was incorrect, which caught me by surprise. We had shared our passwords early in our relationship, and it didn't seem like a big deal. However, now that our wedding was approaching, she had changed her passcode. When she came out of the shower and saw her phone in my hand, she momentarily panicked but quickly regained her composure. I asked her why she had changed her password, and my direct questions seemed to surprise her. She took a moment before responding, explaining that it was because there were pictures of her wedding dress, and she wanted it to be a surprise for me on the wedding day. At the time, her explanation seemed reasonable, but I couldn't help thinking that I had never checked her phone before, so she could have just told me instead of changing her passcode. It was a minor issue, but it lingered in the back of my mind all day. The following day, while I was at work, my fiancé's best friend called me. She couldn't reach my fiancé, and they were running late for a dress-fitting appointment. I assured her that my fiancé must be at home. I asked if they had the appointment the previous day, which she found to be a strange question. She informed me that the store had been closed yesterday and then abruptly ended the call, saying that my fiancé had responded to her message. I was now certain that my fiancé was keeping something from me and had lied about going to her dress-fitting appointment. I just needed to uncover the truth. I decided not to confront her directly because I didn't want to hear another fabricated excuse. While still at work, I received an unexpected call from my best friend, the one who was helping my fiancé with wedding preparations. He rarely called me nowadays, so it was a surprise. He was either at his office or assisting my fiancé with wedding tasks. We engaged in small talk, and he asked me how I was doing. I told him I was fine and inquired about what was happening with him. After a brief chat, he sensed something was amiss and asked if there was a problem. I contemplated whether to share my fiancé's lie with him, but decided to go ahead. I told him about the discrepancy in her story, how she had told me she was going to a tailor, but her best friend had called today saying they had the appointment today instead of yesterday. "Oh, buddy, you're getting worked up over nothing," he assured me. I asked him how he could be so sure, and he explained that my fiancé had attended the fitting for the dress she was wearing during the rehearsal yesterday, and today's appointment was for the wedding dress. I was still uncertain about whether to believe him or not, so I asked him how he could be so confident in the truth. He explained that he knew because he was actively assisting my fiancé with the wedding preparations, and they were constantly communicating about all wedding-related matters. His response put my doubts to rest, and I even felt a pang of guilt for questioning my fiancé. It made sense that my best friend, who was in frequent contact with my fiancé, had a better grasp of the situation. With a sigh of relief, I returned to my work. Everything seemed to go smoothly for the next few days. My fiancé continued to act differently, but we attributed it to the stress of the wedding. She reassured me multiple times that everything would be fine. One evening, I informed her that I would be coming home late due to a client meeting scheduled for dinner. Strangely, she didn't seem disappointed or sad about my late arrival. She simply replied, "Okay." However, the client meeting was rescheduled for the next day. When I arrived home later than expected, my fiancé wasn't there. It was already quite late, so I called her and asked where she was. She lied and told me she was at home, going on about how she missed me and had been eagerly waiting for my return. I knew she was lying as I searched the entire house. Eventually, she inquired about when I would be getting home, and I replied that I was already home and waiting for her. I ended the call, and within half an hour, she returned. She came back with groceries and various items. I didn't need to ask for an explanation. She started explaining herself, saying that she had been attending cooking classes. She claimed it was a surprise for me, which was why she hadn't mentioned she wouldn't be at home. I told her that she didn't need to lie about such minor things and that, as my partner, I expected complete honesty from her. She nodded and hugged me. I hugged her back, but I couldn't help but feel guarded now. I tried to kiss her, but she turned her head, saying she needed to put the groceries in the refrigerator. I knew something was amiss with my fiancé, and I made it my mission to uncover the truth. There were too many things that couldn't be ignored. The lies she had recently told me, her changed passcode, it just didn't add up. However, I was determined to uncover the reason behind all of this. That night, I lay in bed contemplating various possible explanations for my fiancé's deception. None of them seemed plausible except one. She might be cheating on me. It made me feel a tad guilty for doubting the woman who was soon to be my wife, but there was another nagging thought. I needed to figure this out before our wedding. Discovering the truth after getting married would be a disastrous scenario I wanted to avoid at all costs. I considered confiding in my best friend, but something held me back. He was already dealing with a painful breakup, and burdening him with my suspicions wouldn't be fair to his mental well-being. So I decided to undertake this investigation on my own. It seemed best not to involve anyone else, especially if it turned out there was no real cause for concern, which I genuinely hoped for. I began to closely monitor my fiancé's activities, including checking the CCTV camera outside our home to see who came and went when I was at work. Unfortunately, the camera didn't reveal anything significant. It merely showed my fiancé leaving the house shortly after I did in the morning and returning late in the evening. Frustrated by the lack of evidence, I pondered what more I could do, but no solutions came to mind. With her phone passcode changed, I was left with only one option: to follow her and discover where she was going. It felt like an invasion of privacy, but I was driven by the need to uncover the truth before our impending marriage, so I resolved to tail her. The following day, I told her I was heading to work as usual, but instead, I parked my car a few streets away from our house and waited for her to leave. I kept a significant distance between our cars to avoid arousing suspicion and watched through the front camera until she exited our home. As soon as she left, I began tailing her, ensuring to maintain a discreet distance. She first went to a thrift store and spent some time there before heading to the florist. Following that, she returned home. I couldn't help but feel foolish for doubting her when she was just going about her usual routine. Nevertheless, her recent actions were still on my mind. I reminded myself that just because she hadn't done anything unusual didn't mean everything was fine. I understood that it might take some time to uncover the truth. I decided to continue tailing her for another day or two, and if I still found nothing suspicious, I'd put this investigation to rest. Everything appeared normal when I returned home that evening. I repeated the same routine the following day, but my fiancée didn't deviate from her usual activities. Even though something felt amiss, she hadn't acted differently during these 2 days. A fleeting suspicion crossed my mind that perhaps she knew I was following her, but I quickly dismissed the idea. I hadn't shared my suspicions with anyone, and I had made sure to maintain a considerable distance when trailing her car. On the third morning, I received a call from my best friend regarding my bachelor's party. I informed him that I was open to any plans he had in mind. There was a lot of background noise, with loud Spanish songs playing. I couldn't ask him about his location, as I received another urgent call from work that required me to head to the office. At that point, I didn't see much point in continuing to follow my fiancée, as her activities had remained consistent. I went to the office and attended to my tasks. Later, I received a call from the jeweler responsible for crafting our wedding rings. They hadn't received my fiancée's ring size, so they reached out to me. I dialed my fiancée's number to request her ring measurement. What struck me immediately upon her answering the call was the loud Spanish music in the background. I inquired about her whereabouts, and she mentioned that she was with her best friend, not mine. I relayed the jeweler's message, and she assured me she would visit the store in the evening to provide her ring measurement. I ended the call, but something didn't sit right with me. The simultaneous presence of loud Spanish music in the background of both my fiancé and my best friend's calls felt more than coincidental. I decided to call my best friend again and asked him where he was. He explained he was at a cafe for a client meeting. He worked for an event management company, which was why he had volunteered to assist my fiancé with wedding preparations. However, when I heard a distinctive high-pitched laugh in the background, I recognized it immediately as my fiancé's. The laughter abruptly ceased, leaving me with a sinking feeling. My friend came up with some excuses to end the call abruptly. There didn't appear to be any reason for my fiancé or my best friend to lie if they were together. I knew they used to spend time together discussing wedding-related matters. So why would they deceive me? Deep down, I had a hunch about the answer, but I wasn't ready to accept it so readily. I chose to remain silent until I had substantial evidence to confront them. Instinctively, after work that evening, I didn't head straight home. Instead, I went to my best friend's place. His car was not there. I checked the time. It was around 6 o'clock. Only then did I proceed to my own house. Upon arriving, I checked the time again, realizing it had taken me just 23 minutes to get home from my friend's place. The same amount of time it took my fiancée on the night she claimed to be returning from a cooking class. At that moment, I was convinced that both of them were lying to me. I needed to see it with my own eyes to confirm my suspicion. Once inside my house, I noticed that my fiancé was still absent. I freshened up while contemplating the turmoil in my life. I was on the verge of marriage, yet my fiancé was cheating on me, and worse, with my best friend. Despite my small glimmer of hope that all my fears were unfounded, I feared the worst. The following day, I continued to shadow my fiancée. She followed her usual routine, including a visit to the thrift store. She went about her regular activities, and just as frustration was mounting due to the lack of evidence, I spotted my best friend entering the thrift store. However, this still wasn't enough to confirm or dispel my doubts. Perhaps he was merely assisting her with wedding-related tasks. He emerged from the store after 45 minutes, leaving me with no concrete evidence, which was becoming increasingly frustrating. The next morning, as I was having breakfast, I suddenly remembered leaving a file in the bedroom. I retrieved it and saw my fiancée dressing after her shower. As I walked past her, my attention was drawn to a hickey on her shoulder blades. It was definitely not from me, as it had been over a month since we had been intimate. I halted beside her, and she appeared surprised as I stopped in my tracks. My finger traced the outline of the hickey. She trembled, a shiver of the unsettling kind coursing through her. I didn't need to inquire about what had happened. She volunteered an explanation. "Yesterday, I was wearing an off-shoulder top, and I got bitten by an insect," she began. "It hurt a lot at the time." I expressed my doubt, suggesting it didn't appear to be an insect bite. This made her anxious, and she continued to weave a web of lies, insisting that it was indeed an insect bite. I chose to remain silent, my determination growing stronger to unearth evidence to confirm my suspicions. As soon as I got into my car, my first action was to review the CCTV footage from the previous day. As I suspected, my fiancée hadn't been wearing an off-shoulder top on that day. The recording showed her in an outfit that completely covered her shoulders. Although it seemed fruitless, I spent that entire day shadowing my fiancé. Finally, I stumbled upon something significant. I observed her heading straight to my best friend's house, where he warmly greeted her with a hug. They entered together and remained inside for almost the entire day. I knew that if I rang the doorbell, my suspicions would be confirmed, and I would find them together in bed. Instead of using the doorbell, I quietly employed the spare key my friend had given me long ago for emergencies. He also had a spare key to my house. I opened the door with utmost discretion and proceeded inside. My fiancé's purse lay on the living room couch. Following the sounds, I tiptoed toward the origin of the noise. I took cautious steps to avoid making any noise, eventually arriving at the bedroom door. Their voices were distinctly audible. My fiancé was sharing how I had nearly caught her that day, saying, "He saw the hickey. We have to be more cautious from now on." My best friend responded with a nonchalant sound, after which their voices were replaced by unmistakable intimate sounds. I inched the bedroom door open with the utmost care, revealing my fiancé entangled in bed with my best friend. Swiftly, I captured an incriminating photo with my phone before quietly closing the door. As I reached the living room, the bedroom door swung open once more, and my fiancé emerged, laughing. Her smile vanished instantly when her eyes met mine. She was clad in my best friend's shirt and nothing else, her body frozen in place. My best friend, who had trailed her out, froze upon seeing me as well. Rage consumed me, rendering coherent thought impossible. I instinctively lunged at my best friend, delivering a punch to his jaw. Turning to my fiancé, I declared my disdain, vowing never to set eyes on her again, and stormed out of his house. Instead of heading to work, I headed straight home, lacking the energy for anything else. Despite my prior suspicions, this betrayal cut deep. My best friend and my partner. Just as I pulled up at my house, my fiancé arrived as well. I ordered her to leave my property, but she defied my words and followed me inside, tears streaming down her face as she implored me to hear her out. I understood that there was nothing she could say to justify their actions, but curiosity got the better of me. I decided to allow her to speak. She hesitated at first, shocked by my willingness to listen, but then began to explain. It all began when she started planning our wedding. After my best friend's breakup, she claimed she was merely consoling him as he was devastated. One thing led to another, and they shared a kiss. It was never meant to be anything more than that. She sobbed as she recounted her story, and I couldn't help but express my disdain. "You were helping him move on by sleeping with him," I retorted with a harsh tone. She flinched at the sharpness of my voice but continued, apologizing profusely and promising to do anything to earn my forgiveness. She spoke of the life we had ahead of us, pleading with me not to let one mistake ruin everything. The more she spoke, the more my anger grew. It was as if she expected me to forgive her infidelity, as if it were a trivial matter. A thought crossed my mind. I could easily end our relationship right then and there, announcing the cancellation of the wedding. The wedding was only 5 days away, or I could make my fiancé and my best friend truly suffer for their betrayal. I chose the latter option, allowing my fiancé to plead her case further. She convinced me that everything could be perfect from that point on, urging me not to cancel anything and to enjoy the bachelor party. She argued that it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. All our guests were arriving early to join in the bachelor party festivities. It seemed like the perfect plan, and I decided not to cancel anything. My fiancée couldn't believe what was happening. She probably thought there was no way I could forgive her for cheating, and she was correct in her assumption. She was about to find out what consequences awaited cheaters. On the day of the bachelor party, I met my best friend again. He insisted on coming to my house instead of heading straight to the club where the party was to take place. As soon as he walked in, he began to apologize profusely, expressing how he never intended to jeopardize my relationship with my fiancée. I reassured him, telling him that I forgave them both, emphasizing that everyone makes mistakes. I was giving them a second chance. I went to the party venue with him and mingled with our other friends. No one suspected that I was merely putting on a facade and had no real intention of following through with the wedding. I acted as if I were having the time of my life. Throughout the night, I couldn't escape thoughts of their betrayal. My fiancée was staying at her parents' house until the wedding, which I believed was for the best. I didn't think I could bear to see her face without being reminded of her betrayal. My mind drifted back to the day my best friend had called me, claiming she was at a dress rehearsal dress fitting. It was a lie, as she was with him, and they must have known that I had spoken to her best friend, who had confirmed that the store was closed. I had decided that I would put an end to everything during the dinner, ensuring that everyone knew the truth behind why the wedding was being called off. My fiancée would be attending the dinner with her parents. I had arrived at the venue ahead of time and arranged for a projector with the staff. Guests began to arrive, including our immediate families and closest friends. In a twist, I had informed the officiant to arrive a bit later than planned. My fiancée began to worry about the officiant's absence, but I reassured her with a smile and said it was okay. I then announced to everyone that while we waited for the officiant, I had something important to share. A member of the wedding party suggested I could save the toast for later, but I insisted on speaking right then. I started my speech by recounting how I had met my fiancée and emphasized how perfect our relationship had been. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, smiling. Little did she know what was about to unfold. I expressed my gratitude for everything she had done for me and my family, highlighting her selflessness. I praised her as the most considerate woman. I then dropped the bombshell, revealing that she had been sleeping with my best friend to help him move on. A tense silence filled the room as everyone absorbed my words. My fiancée froze in her spot, and I shifted my attention to my now former best friend. I shared our long history of friendship, recalling a school memory where we had defended each other. I spoke to him directly, saying, "You really were like a brother to me," and then projected the incriminating photo on the screen. Gasps filled the room as the image of my fiancée and my former best friend, naked in bed together, became visible. I turned to look at my fiancée, but she was facing the floor. Approaching her, I told her never to appear in front of me again and demanded my ring back. While the ring itself held little value to me, I didn't want her to possess that symbol of commitment. She handed it to me with trembling hands. I informed her that I had already arranged for movers to take her belongings, emphasizing that she should never set foot on my property again. The guests exchanged whispers and stares as the shocking events unfolded. I thanked everyone for attending and announced that the wedding was canceled. Nu Yoon was taken aback by this revelation, though given the circumstances, it was evident that the wedding could not proceed. I informed her that I would send her the bill for all the expenses, leaving her shocked. I simply shrugged and informed her that she was no longer responsible. Her unfaithfulness had led to the cancellation of the wedding, so it was only fair that she would cover the expenses. With that, I left the hall without looking back, ignoring both my fiancée and my former best friend. This time, they didn't attempt to convince me or argue. The next day, movers arrived and took away all of her belongings. I made sure nothing of hers remained behind, ensuring she had no excuse to return to my place. I didn't have to send her the bills. The vendors communicated directly with her since she had handled all the wedding arrangements, and she couldn't bring herself to send those bills to me. I blocked her on all social media platforms, as well as her phone number. I wanted to eliminate any negativity from her in my life. I carried on with my life, holding my head high. I heard from someone that my ex-fiancée couldn't meet anyone's eyes and had gone to live with her cousins in another state for a while. My former best friend never attempted to contact me after that day. He sent my house keys through a mutual friend. Everyone was aware of their betrayal, and no one was associating with them. They were facing the consequences of their own actions, and I couldn't help but feel justified. I continued living my life, knowing that I had been faithful to my fiancé and a good friend to my former best friend. I didn't deserve what they did to me. I started therapy sessions to move on and find happiness. Thank you all for listening up to this point. Update. It's been 6 months since my last post and almost a year since I called off my wedding. I learned through a mutual friend that my ex-fiancée began dating my former best friend. Yes, the one she slept with. They officially started dating 2 months after the wedding was canceled. They were initially happy, but as word got out, they became the subject of gossip and encountered relationship problems. Eventually, my ex-best friend cheated on her with a colleague from his office. She found out months later and broke up with him. As soon as I learned this, I thought of sharing it here, as I had previously shared everything else. Update. It's been 2 years since I posted about discovering that my fiancé cheated on me with my former best friend. In my last update, I mentioned that she had also broken up with him. After their breakup, she tried to contact me again. Since she was blocked everywhere, she approached me at a party. She joked about how it seemed fitting to ask for my forgiveness at a party since everything had begun with one. I chuckled at her and made it clear that I had no intention of getting back together with her, even if she were the last person on earth. This happened in front of a group of people, and it elicited laughter from everyone. She felt embarrassed and hastily retreated, never attempting to approach me again. My ex-best friend also made an attempt to reach out to me after breaking up with my ex-fiancé. He explained that he had waited to give me space. He emphasized how much our friendship meant to him, claiming it was more important than any romantic relationship. I confronted him, asking why he had dated my ex-fiancé after I called off the wedding when he knew I wouldn't approve. He was taken aback, thinking I was unaware of their relationship. I laughed and assured him I knew everything but simply didn't care. I made it clear that I didn't want friends like him in my life anymore. As for therapy, it has been immensely helpful. I've realized I can't carry the weight of others' mistakes forever and have started to let go. The pain of the betrayal has lessened over time, and I'm content with my life now. I received a long-desired promotion at work, have made genuine friends who supported me during tough times, and received invaluable help from my family. Although I initially tried to stay in my old home, it held too many memories with my ex-fiancé, so I decided to sell it and move to a new property. With the support of friends and family, I've settled into my new place, marking the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I'm also in a new relationship with a wonderful woman from my workplace. She's aware of my past and is incredibly understanding. We're taking things slowly, but there's potential for a deeper connection as time goes on.